start now.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges. So we are the French team, and first we are very honored to be here today, and we thought it was a little bit funny to work on a case that mentions staff unrest and a staff that threatens to go on strike on transport, because strikes on transport is something that each of us has unfortunately experienced in France. So today we are very pleased to treat the exciting case about Cathay business in Asia and more generally about Cathay business overall. I will let Clément present you the context.
Thank you. So now I'm simply going to deal with the brief context of the company. What can we say about our case? It was about Cathay Pacific, a company created in 1946 in Hong Kong, and about Cathay Dragon Airline, which is a second company belonging to the first one. What brought this case was the apparent layoff of 600 people between 2016 and 2017, which means that there is a human resources problem. Then, if we have to deal about the revenue, then we understand that since 2015 there is a three-year trend of decreasing of this turnover, which means that globally this company is facing problems, big issues. The key one is obviously the profit margin, understanding the cost and the revenue. So we saw that in 2015 the profit margin was of 3, but in 2016 it went as a loss by minus 0.6. So to be a bit more general and to understand how Cathay is currently on its Chinese market or in Asian market globally, I would say that, if you can see it well, first of all, we have to know that this market is huge. As it is said, Asia Pacific is the fastest growing aviation market in the world. It represents 1,214 million flights per day, people attended flights. So which means that by 2030 it will represent 40% of the global aviation market. On this market there are several competitors, of course, of Cathay. They are not on their own, and there are several low-cost companies like Nok Air, Air Asia and Vietjet Air that are pretty successful and are bringing many problems to Cathay Airline. So now, during the 3 hours, we managed to focus on one single main issue. It is the following: what measures should be implemented to make Cathay's profitability take off? It's really wide, I understand, but the idea was to divide it into 3 key sub-issues that are the following. I have another slide for those ones, of course. The first one will be face the competitive airline market. The second one is going to be meet the stakeholders' expectations. That is another big issue. And the third one will be how to optimize the operating margin. So for the first one, I will let Josephine deal with it.
So the first sub-issue is to face the competitive airline market. We've analyzed 3 relevant issues. The first one is that decreasing prices are the trend on the low-cost carrier model. And as we can see, Cathay Pacific Airlines try to enter in this trend, but they stick in the middle price. They also have a strategy with low quality services, but quite expensive one. And the last issues is that they have 2 undissociated brands. One is Cathay Pacific Airlines, and the other one is Dragon Airline. And one is now in Hong Kong and the other one in China. Based on this analysis, we recommend 3 actions. So the first one is to improve brand positioning. So for the Cathay Pacific Airline, we recommend Cathay to do a premiumization, to increase the quality of the services and to increase the securities in order also to meet the new ranking. And it will be possible because of the high load factor percentage. The second recommendation will be to do a marketing campaign with social media and television to change the image of the brand. And finally, it will be to optimize the aircraft distribution. So we will recommend Cathay Pacific Airlines to Cathay to buy a 380 airplane for the Cathay Pacific Airlines, and also to keep the Boeing 777, and all the airplane A350 has to be used to the Dragon's airline. I let Oriane deal with the second issue.
So the second issue is meet the stakeholders' expectations. The case wonders whether Cathay's measures were sufficient or not. Where that the thing is that Cathay only took into account profit, whereas profit does not grow alone. Ethics must be taken into account too, and to increase efficiency. So the three main stakeholders of Cathay are clients, staff, and shareholders. Regarding clients, the thing is that with airline companies, the ratio that must be taken into account is the revenue on customer. So the customer is the center of the whole business model of such companies. But the score given by Asia Help that evaluates customer satisfaction and the quality of the service delivered by Cathay has decreased over the past year has decreased. So that means that the customer service efficiency decreased. So the customer had to wait a long time before getting refunded from their airplane tickets. There is some lacks in the quality of services. I mean, it should be a little bit obvious that newspaper isn't the same thing as a blanket. So we can imagine that the client that has faced this issue wasn't really satisfied with the quality of the service of Cathay Airlines. And finally, we can notice that over the past few years there have been little innovation in Cathay's way of client service. The second shareholder is staff and members of staff. There is unrest within this staff. Indeed, cost cuttings have led to, for instance, a decrease in houses subsidies. So the staff is threatening to go on strikes, but also to have other ways of expressing their unrest, such as training bans, for instance. There is a fear of layoffs because there have been huge amounts of layoffs. So the employee morale is very low, and this is something that has a negative impact on the client satisfaction. And the third shareholders the first type of stakeholders are the shareholders. They experienced a loss in their revenues and their dividends of the last year, so that is something that does not meet their expectations. Given this analysis, our recommendations focus on clients and staff, because when clients and staff are satisfied with the service and the management, then profit can be higher, so the dividends will be too, so the stakeholder will be too. So our general recommendation is to implement KPIs. So that's the key productivity indicators. For instance, by implementing the ISO 9001 norms. These KPIs will include to increase client satisfaction, a satisfaction study with interviews to know really well the client of Cathay, but also with mystery clients experience, for instance. That will also mean improve user experience with simple measures, but also with very innovative measures through R&D. That should be on air with the implementation, for instance, of internet connection as Virgin Air did, but also with thanks to KPIs, the insurance that no shortcuts of blankets, for instance, will happen. In the airport too, we can think of, for instance, massage seats or other things to improve the comfort of clients, customers. It also means improve the customer service efficiency by increasing the provision part in the financial statement to be sure that there is a budget allocated, a sufficient budget allocated to refunding of the client. That also means, for instance, a partnership with WeChat to reduce the period, the time of refunding. Regarding staff, we'll focus on 3 points: consider, inform, and stimulate. Consider staff must be felt as the members are very considered by the company. They mustn't fear of being laid off tomorrow. So we recommend to stop layoff, and if costs of employment costs must be reduced, then we recommend rather to reduce the rhythm of employment rather than layoff. We also recommend to inform more through more dialogue with the unions, but also through conferences, for instance. And finally, we recommend to stimulate more the staff by implementing participation plan and productivity plans, for instance. That would be possible with the implementation of KPIs. And we recommend also to put a system of stock options to stimulate the employees to make them implicated in the profit of the company. I will let finally Alexander deal with the first and last sub-issue.
So, last but not least, we wanted to tackle the third sub-issue, which is to know how to optimize the operating margin. So, first of all, we did an analysis of the current situation of Cathay Pacific Airlines, and we noticed 4 major issues which are part of the current difficulties of the company. So first of all, we noticed that Cathay have ordered in total 53 airplanes for 2024, which is quite an outstanding order. About the ranking, Cathay is not the first company that it used to be, and it's nowadays 5th in Skytrax ranking. There are also an increasing of parking fees and operating costs, and which is one of the main issues of the financial difficulties of the firms. And finally, the fuel hedging strategy has failed, and it puts Cathay in against the wall, because they have to pay a higher price for fuel during the four next years, which is a major issue for the company. What we recommend, given this analysis, is to modify some of their business model and action plan to fit with the financial situation of the firms. So first of all, we recommend to highlight quality rather than volumes. That means that we recommend to reduce the number of purchase of blame and to reduce costs. Indeed, with 53 new planes, the parking fees will be even higher, and the financial problem will be a continuous one. So by reducing the number of planes, the fees will be also reduced, and it will reduce the financial difficulty of the firm. In order to compensate this reduction of aircraft, we recommend to anticipate a joint venture with another Asian airlines in order to increase the volume of flights. Secondly, we recommend to optimize the supply chain to avoid shortage on board. This will eventually avoid useless expenditure when shortage happens. So they will control their financial expenditure. And finally, we recommend to implement digitization to compensate the layoff. Digitization is an investment, but on the long term and in mid-term, it will eventually allow the company to have a good financial situation. So I will now let Clement resume the 3 sub-issues and the 3 main actions we recommended to Cathay Pacific Airlines.
Thank you. So yes, to sum up briefly, because we only have less than 5 minutes. The first sub-issue was to face the competitive airline market. Well, we recommended to divide the 2 brands and to make it really distinguished about the positioning. And the idea was also to improve their positioning about premiumization or low cost. The second sub-issue was to meet the stakeholder expectations. It's what Orion said. It was a really wide issue, but to sum it up, I would say that it is to improve customer satisfaction, because the customer satisfaction is the key to this profit. And secondly, to include the staff in the company's success by the stock options, for example. For the third sub-issue, I would say that to optimize the operating margin, well, it will be thanks to using IT to reduce the costs and to dilute the layoff effect, and as well to tackle useless expenditure like the planes, like Alexandre said about the planes. So now, Alexandre is going to tell you the timeline that we would like to implement.
Yeah, indeed. In order to implement this new strategy, several actions need to be planned. First of all, on the short term, we recommend to tackle all the issue which regarding the user experience and the reputation of the firm. So it deals with marketing campaign, user experience, and also the stock option and satisfaction study to improve the satisfaction of clients and staff. We also recommend to do a signature menu in the plane for an higher service and to be relevant with the premium offer we would like to implement it regarding Cathay Pacific Airlines. On the midterm, we recommend to tackle the issue of digitization because it will be a key point for the future development of the activity. We'll also renegotiate aging contracts in 4 years to tackle this major financial issue, and then anticipate the future by making a benchmark of which company could be relevant to a joint venture to increase the volume of flights. Finally, the aircraft distribution is also a major issue to be relevant with the offer of low cost for Dragon Airlines and the offer of premium offer for Cathay. Finally, once all this action will be done, on the long term, we recommend to invest. Hopefully, the activity will be in a good situation, and it will be relevant to do some R&D and investment in new plane and maybe in new people and staff. So all in all, as the people are at the heart of the matter in the aircraft sectors, all these action are aims at reducing cost and increasing revenue in order to strike a balance between profits and ethics. And this combination of profit and ethics will eventually lead to efficiency and a sustainable activity for the company. So I will now let Oriane do the conclusion.
Simply, thank you for your attention, or in French, merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Emlyon University. Now we'll proceed to the 15-minute Q&A session. Judges, please ask the questions.
Sorry. Just wanted to understand what do you think about the oil hedging strategy? You mentioned about renegotiating some of the aging contracts. Like as a strategy, well, should we even continue with this? What do you think about this instrument at all, and what would you learn from past experience?
I think that this strategy of aging contract regarding fuel is really interesting because fuel is very volatile, and it is a major financial issue for an airlines company. However, in 4 years, when the aging contract will be over, it will be essential to really focus on the future evolution of the fuel price. And so, as it has already dropped down a lot against all expectation, we can wonder that the price will go up in the future. So this is just hypothesis. So maybe it will be interesting to do some hedging contracts after in 4 years, because maybe the price will go up. But this is just an hypothesis, and we cannot be formal on this point, and some experts will be needed to estimate the evolution of fuel price.
In addition, with the economic situation of oil and the alternative that the United States get regarding to petrol, for instance, and the fact that with all the new energies, oil is the demand on oil is decreasing, then the prices too. So we can hope, and we can, I think, reasonably expect that the oil price will continue to decrease, or at least won't increase very highly.
I have a question about your strategy of JVs. How is your strategy, a JV strategy, differentiate or different from the existing co-share flight strategies that or airlines already currently having at the moment?
So what we thought about the JV was that it would be a good thing to have many more aircrafts without investing more. That's why we thought about this idea. And about the current situation of JV, we also thought about the partnership between Air France and KLM. We thought it was an interesting thing because Air France managed to figure out some problems about cost, and that's why we didn't have any idea, to be honest, on the JV we had to do, but we knew how the method would go, and it would be about the synergy we would have to find with these other Asian companies.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of like highlight. I was more indeed in terms of the joint venture. I mean, like what specific areas to focus on. I mean, like for example, Asia is by far the fastest growing area in terms of aviation passengers and these type of things. Are you basically going to focus on a JV that then focuses on Asia, or are you trying to actually have a JV that then focuses more and is more cost efficient in areas such as Europe or the United States? So I just want to know, so are you then saying, what is the focus, what do you think in terms of the JV strategy, what should be Cathay specific strategy? Would that be more focused on Asia and therefore focus on that and then let the rest go for the other areas for the JV partner, or how do you actually see that moving forward?
That's a really interesting question and maybe really strategic. So should we maybe concert ourselves just for little seconds to tell you a good answer?
Sure.
So, as we say, it is important to do a benchmark before any JV to know which company will be the more relevant to the activity of Cathay Airlines. And the area covered by this JV will also depend on the partner we will choose. So, we recommend first to maybe choose a JV partner who is have an activity mainly in Asia. because actually currently Cathay Pacific Airlines is facing some financial difficulties, and maybe as a first step it will be interesting to focus on the closed area where the cost will be reduced and where volume can be increased. Indeed, thanks to this closed area covered, it will make some profit and then develop the activities. And the international, the abroad area is maybe a next step with the same partner, with the same JV partner. But we recommend to focus first on the Asia Pacific, the Asia area, which will have a strong potential, and which will reduce the cost for the company, and then go abroad.
Also, with Asia, there is a less important cultural gap, so it will be easier to make a joint venture at the beginning with Asia.
Can you speak a bit more about digitalization? You mentioned about partnering with WeChat and some of the other parties. Can you speak a bit more on how much money are you planning to spend in that category as an investment?
That's a very interesting question. Can we take just 2 seconds?
I think it's
Okay.
the main thing is that digitization is for both marketing campaign and staff efficiency. Regarding the marketing campaign, we wanted to use digitization through a social network, for example. It goes through the use of online opinion leader, for example. Regarding the cost, we can advance that for a famous online opinion leader in China, for example. There is Bing Bing Jan. It is for those opinion leader with over 1 million followers. It costs around $700 per post. So it is an investment, but there are some large impact on the Chinese population afterwards. Concerning the staff efficiency part, we would like to use digitization with a new technology, and as Orion presented KPI, to just follow the production and the evolution of the work of staff, and also about the client satisfaction. So this is not a huge investment, because this is just some indicator and some measure. So there is not like all the rage new technology or robots, but just some informatic technology use. So this is the digitization is an investment, and it will be quite long to implement in the firm strategy. But at the end of the day, it will not cost a lot to the company.
I have a question regarding the stock options. Usually, stock options are granted to senior management, and the customer satisfaction is very much driven by frontline staff. So, how do you actually motivate the frontline staff if you are implementing a stock option scheme within the company?
So can you just repeat the question about the part with the frontline staff, please?
So a lot of times the customer satisfaction is very driven by the level of service given from frontline staff. So do you envision, I suppose the question is that, stock options are usually granted to more of the senior staff. So how would you match how would you connect the two?
Okay, so the idea was when we did, do you want to go? So when we wanted to develop the stock options, the idea was not only to limit it to the senior manager. The idea was actually to make everybody take part in the company's strategy. That's why we thought that you have a financial interest in your company would make you commit more in your job. So even the frontline staff would be able to supply a better customer experience, and that's why at the end it would increase profits. It's a double strength stream, I would say. That there would be the staff as well more applied to your job and more committed, but also the customers that would feel a better attention from the staff, that would pay more and would be ready to accept the premiumization we are implementing.
Yeah, going on the number two, the meet stakeholders' expectations. So partly because of stock, actually I had an idea, stock options as well. We're work for HSBC banks, I think the whole idea of stock options as after the financial crisis kind of has been less popular, right? Because it creates some perverse behavior. So again, short-term behavior, right? So given that this idea is more of a long-term, sustainable profit growth and these type of things, would you not be afraid that stock options would basically create a short-term immediate boost instead of having the longer-term effect that we may be envisioning?
It's a really good question. Is there any one of us who has a good opinion? Ryan, do you want to?
The thing is, with the strategy of layoffs implemented, we think that regarding this strategy, stock options, for instance, with all of the measures, all of the other combined with all of the other measures, will be part of a more long-term strategy than just a big wave of layoffs. So the thing with stock options is not just to encourage short-term profits, but the idea was more to just make the staff and all the members of the company being implicated in the profits and of the company, but given that they will normally, or most of them will belong to the company for other years after. So this is in their interest too, that the profit is not just short term but also medium and long term either.
If I could complete as well, I think that it's true, it's possible that there is a short-term impact on the stock options for the motivation of the staff, but it can also be eased by the fact that we are going to develop the communication internally, and that's why maybe it will only be a short-term one, but a long-term motivation, thanks to all the management and the risk crisis that we will deal with and improve.
Okay. You mentioned about through gaining efficiency, you would like to achieve better profits and also better standard ethics. So which is a very ideal and delicate strategy. Can you mention about what could go wrong in that strategy? What would be the key success factors in order for that to happen?
I think it's maybe because if the company don't do it the right way, like maybe if they do the joint venture before to do the benchmarking, if we get maybe the wrong solutions, so they have to do it correctly in the good timing. And actually we will just keep going maybe with Cathay Pacific Airlines to make it concrete. So if something's going wrong, and maybe it's because they don't follow the good timing, we can help them to do an agenda or to keep them in the right way.
If I may have one final question. I thought you mentioned about the provision in the financial statements. Can you elaborate on how you think having more provision in the financial statements could help increase the profit margin of the company?
It's to get the customer satisfied, not to wait too long to be a repayment, to wait the repayment. So it will be easier to increase the quality of the service, customer service, because Cathay Pacific Airlines will be quicker in their repayments if they do something wrong with the customers.
And with the increase of the customer satisfaction comes the increase of revenues because of the price they are willing to pay and of the increase of the volume. So the revenues will increase more than the provisions will. So the profit margin will be increased too.
And also it will be because they won't be afraid to use again the company, because they know that they will be repaid very quickly.
I have one final question. It's just a clarification question, actually. It's in the number 1 item, phase competition. It's the optimize the aircraft distribution, basically saying buy A380 planes and use for Dragonair. Why?
I think we said about the 350 airplane. Can I answer still? Yes. So what we had about the aircraft optimization was that the A380, because we are French, it's Airbus, so we'll say that it's more premium. So the idea was to put it, thanks to Cathay Airline, that was going on a premiumization strategy. The 350 that are already in the company will be moved to Dragon Airline because they're maybe less premium and less new in the mind of the consumer.